Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah.
Yo, what's up, dude?
Yo, dude, can you hear me?
Yeah, man.
Dude, what's up?
Oh, dude, I got some ideas, and maybe it's just we could just talk about it live.
Yeah, let's go.
So I don't know, man. We can build out in the open, right? We always have with like the WIP and everything. We had our like WIP crew meeting on Friday, the first inaugural one. I don't think I said that right, ever. And it was good, man. But it also gave me like a lot of food for thought in terms of everyone sort of coming together and putting their ideas together and how to like, level up, what is this sort of ambiguous project that we've had going on for many years now with the WIP. But anyway, man, and we've been talking about, we have so much content, right? Like that's like one thing we're very strong in. And then we were like, running some of I've been working with the YouTube channel. If people are listening, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/@the WIP Meetup 8057.
You can find in our link tree on the WIP Twitter. But trying to organize that a little bit. And we've been talking about how to like repurpose some of the classic content. And it just occurred to me, man, I posted Paradox's recap from the epic Marble Cards 5th anniversary last week and the Meme Explorers launch. And I'm like, dude, we should be posting these snippets to our YouTube account. And maybe I can start going back, all the way from the beginning and just start uploading some of Paradox's mashups. Because we've been like tinkering around with AI, making some mashups, and they're like pretty good with some of the stuff that they put out. But we've got all this backlog of Paradox's content too, and it really doesn't live anywhere. So I don't know, man, just starting to just try and think of creative ways to use all that good energy from the meeting with the WIP crew on Friday and take advantage of like some of all this awesome stuff that we're already sitting on and have never really figured out what to do with.
Yeah, no, the meeting was great. Especially shout out. Everyone had great talking points, but I think Brocock made me think a ton. Him and Show, their comments in particular, and questions too. So,
yeah, man,
I've been percolating a lot about like what we were talking about, mainly on the like partnership front. Like if we're going to like Hyperfy, like doing so much work there, and then potentially like Nifty Island, leveraging that heading forward in a way that works with the character of the WIP today, at least. Like there is just so much more we can do and so much more like any project can do. And it's cool to have those opportunities to talk as a group and then that reprioritize accordingly.
Yeah. It's fun, man. I mean, I say it week after week, but this sort of like ongoing experiment where we're sort of, I think one thing we came away with is that like, there was a good meeting because I think we all need some direction, or at least to like get on the same page in terms of what the direction is, but the unknown aspect of the direction is sort of like the most exciting part for me, because we're sort of, building this thing that is sort of a unicorn within the space and everything. So, yeah, man, Brookhawk and Show were living rent free in my head throughout the weekend. Everyone had like really good things to say, man. Fractilians had a lot of like good ideas, and I've been using some of the tools she dropped in there and everything. So I don't know. I feel good moving forward, man. And it's, and I keep reflecting on, sort of not taking this for granted, man, but I'm like, dude, we hosted one of like the most OG projects in the space's like 5-year anniversary. And then their launch of their new like bizarre experimental Memon thing, which I might add, my Memon is like currently crushing all the other Memons. And I don't know, man, it's all good energy, but yeah, Brookhawk had like a different spin on things that I think everyone needed to sort of think about, and it's all positive growth, I think.
Yeah, no. And another direct outcome of that talk was me finally getting into Nifty Island and kicking the tires there together with Easy and Crypto and Metageist afterwards. And oh my
what are your
God,
thoughts,
man.
man? I would love to hear your fresh take on it without me chiming in.
Like it felt like a real game. The client download setup was smooth, all things considered. Like as smooth as having to download an external client and get that set up can be. Which was I was worried. I'm like, all right, this is gonna give me deja vu of like Decentraland back in the day not working or something like that. I was going in really skeptical, and it opened up without having to reboot the computer. Great sign. The bar is quite low. But then the tutorial, like how to use the controls, what controls you have available, some secret shortcuts and stuff like that. I thought the tutorial was really well done. And then after I finished that, jumping over to Metageist's island that he's building was super smooth, easy to find and navigate. And then after I connected the right wallets with like the avatars I've been using, like the Cody avatar, it was easy to transform into that. And then the gameplay itself is super smooth, I thought. And looking at Metageist's build and seeing anyway what he's been doing in Hyperfy regardless as a master builder, it seems like the tools are great for him to create these cool experiences. So amazing first impression. And then I know they have like the point farming, their play to airdrop, I guess, promotion going on now where just refer a bunch of folks, actually play and use the worlds, have those help you accrue points that will correspond to some sort of future airdrop. Like, great start, man. I have to say, all things like it's very, very promising. What do you think, though?
I just followed you. I didn't realize you were on there. I'll give your little island, Nifty Times Island, a star. Dude, I've been tinkering around with it a lot, and I generally have like a pretty good first impression too. Honestly, I'm not a fan of client downloads just in general. I feel like it's a barrier to entry that loses a lot of people, especially within Web3. I was just I'm in a group chat with like a few other people, some members of the crew and everything who are like tinkering around with their islands and everything, and talking about that same thing, man. And so the games are crisp, absolutely, which is cool, man. I like that they've sort of introduced this like plug and play game template where it makes it really easy for people to spin up something within their framework. But that's fine because that's something like someone like myself who has like, some knowledge of how to build, but I'm not like a master builder by any means, but with a little hand holding and a template to work within, I can make some goofy little games as well. So I like it, man. The other thing that I was thinking about this morning, though, is that there was some message that popped up that it's like if you do a double tap with your roll, it gives you like invincibility for a moment. And I feel like, that's, to me, that's something that like necessitates a controller. Like I've been able to like goof around with some of these games and like, sort of bumble my way through on my keyboard, but I'm not like a gamer to the extent that I have like a controller ready to go and hooked up to my computer. And I feel like that's also like a point where it's sort of like a, barrier to entry, at least for Web3 people who I may be like making the wrong assumptions, but I feel like a lot of people around here really want like snappy, straightforward, you can do it from anywhere type of experiences. And once you introduce like client downloads and then necessitates a controller and everything, I think you're wedging yourself into a smaller and smaller piece of the Web3 pie, unless you can like bring in outside people who you don't really need that knowledge base. And they might straddle that line like pretty well, man. I feel like they've got some sticky gameplay that you don't really need to know the Web3 side of things to engage in it and have a good time with it. But there is some like depth that that they're introducing to the Web3 side of things too, with their like marketplace. And I see they got this flywheel going where you can like earn blooms and then like redeem them for things, and that's all done like off chain. But apparently, there's going to be some on chain thing with this airdrop that a lot of people are farming. I don't know, man. I feel like it's a very, very interesting entry to the space, which I love, man, because I feel like we need that to continue pushing everything forward.
Yeah, no, and what's on or off chain for a game like that? Like you obviously looking at the graphics, a whole lot is off chain, and you can't fault them for that. And even with like the the play to airdrop, whatever point ledger is off chain, on chain, as long as users can see their points and that's transparent, that's good enough for something like that. They're just proving out that these crypto incentives are sort of sticky. And if you look at the activity in the world, you see folks in world, right? And knowing that there is that barrier, like, okay, you do need to download the client to go there. It's a barrier, but it's also like a proof of humanity check. As long as I'm not misreading and as long as I'm not misunderstanding that you have to have the client to go visit the islands. If you can go visit islands without having the client, maybe that's potentially an issue and something I need to double check. But I think they have it set up pretty smartly. And again, for it to launch and just like literally the next day and the day of, after ironing out a few kinks, for it to work so smoothly, great damn sign in this space. Because I don't know how many folks listening, like when Decentraland launched back in January, what was that, 2021 or 2020 rather? Oh my God, that was such a shit show. It was so bad. It was like you couldn't even use it. Like when it finally launched, it was so terrible.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been a lot of those types of situations over the years. I mean, how many false starts did Sandbox have? And now they finally seem like they've got like a pretty dope like working product and everything. At least we were there like a few whips ago and everything in Fabiano's spot, and it was pretty cool. But man, it took them like a long time to get out of the gate with what they had been talking about for a real long time. So it is cool, man. I mean, it's, it's also, I saw Metageist was just talking about how, like, he knows a lot of people are, sort of farming this airdrop and, sort of capturing these blooms. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are popping into these spaces. But at the same time, how nice it is to just have traction in some of these spaces and being able to sort of like count on the fact that if you built something, people will come and check it out. Like there's actually, some motivation and incentive. And one of the things I think is really cool is like the daily tasks are like very well structured to force you to do a couple things, to explore different people's islands in order to, check the box and get the bloom reward or whatever. But also like, forcing you to interact with like different aspects of the game that you may not otherwise have been interested in or tinkering around with and everything. So I think they're doing like a really cool job of like incentivizing people to dig deep enough in the platform that, maybe it becomes sticky for that reason. But I do, I always wonder with any of these type of like tokenomic situations, like, I feel like it's always a matter of like, can you build a sustainable flywheel? And I really, and I think they certainly have the potential to, in terms of like what I've seen. I have no idea how their token drop will affect any of that, but I don't know, man. I've had some like playful banter actually with their like main account, because I'm someone who's like very interested in this, but I don't like, I see like Syncs and Metageist and Paradox and like, some of the people we know just like, building these incredible things. And so I made a low effort island and called it Low Effort Island and put some low effort games on it. And I let my kid tinker around with it, and he put like a windmill on there, but it's sort of barren. You can pick up some blooms there or whatever. And their main account like hit me up and was like, hey, just so you know, like, I don't know, we're concerned your shit is like too low effort or something like that. And that like spurred some like funny back and forth. And I ended up minting one of my kids' voxel swords that we were bludgeoning each other with last week at the WIP on their marketplace, just to sort of tinker around and like see what happens and everything. But they're obviously,
because my island's even more barren. I just have the island and I immediately island jumped. Like I don't plan on adding anything to the island. I'm just not good at that shit. But from your perspective, as just like casually putting up the low effort games, how easy is that in the actual like editor itself to set the games up?
Pretty easy, man. I watched my kid do the death match, and so I did the low effort race, which is like literally a race on my island that takes like 1.5 seconds to complete.
Saw that.
And shout out Roaston, Stella Cat Ballistic Banana, Kuroke have all been like competing in my low effort race, which was like not the intention. It was just to like sort of set it up and see how it worked. But now there's like a race to get it under 1.2 seconds. But it's simple, man. It's like 3 prompts at least to set up the race. It was like, where's your starting point? Where's your checkpoints? Where's your end point? And then it's like you just sort of place those in world as you would something like anywhere else, CryptoVoxels, Hyperfi, or just sort of drag and drop those spots or whatever. And the deathmatch worked like sort of similarly, man. It's like, where do you want your spawn point to be? Here's like a bunch of like bullets and weapons you can scatter around. Where do you want those to be? And then like you can set some parameters like how many kills and like that kind. I didn't mess with it. Like I said, it was more my kid doing it. But my kid is just turned 11 years old not too long ago, and was actually 10 when he made the voxel swords, which I wanted to give him credit for. But the fact that he was able to essentially make this death match, and it's not like paradoxes or metageists or some of these like very sophisticated ones, but like certainly if his friends had the game and he was communicating with them, he could tell them all to come in and play it, and it's like playable and it works. And he's just a kid who like made it in the span of 45 minutes or something without knowing much about anything to do with the game, although he does have some experience messing around with like Hyperfi at this point and Magic of Voxels. He knows his way around a builder, a generic builder a little bit by now, but I'm still like, shit, man, like that's the sort of like low barrier to entry in terms of people being able to like build on your island and mess around with those kinds of things that we need to sort of hit the Minecraft generation, who sort of is familiar with these things, but not on the Web3 side.
No, that's amazing. And like again, the trend towards easier, more accessible tools for casual folks, but in a way that lets the master builders, like, I'm sorry, no shade to you for low effort building.
No, not at all, man.
Like Metageist and Paradox and all those folks that are veterans and highly skilled at building. So like to have a tool or product that appears to be satisfying both ends of that spectrum, that's again like another really not a small feat to accomplish right out the gate. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
so
man,
excited about Nifty Island, man. God damn.
Yeah, dude, it is exciting. The one thing I keep coming back to, man, I'm like, it sucks that we can't really like, we could do a portion of the WIP in there or something like that, but it's certainly a barrier to entry when people show up to our event and then we're like, yo, you got to download this thing and like blah, 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 blah. And that kind of sucks. And so, and not that should necessarily deter us, because a lot of our people are already in there, and have active builds and everything like that. But I wish that was a thing, and I hope it doesn't become a ghost town, man. Like I imagine the flywheel with like the bloom farming and these daily tasks and everything, unless they really have it like well executed, fizzles out at some point in terms of, okay, now like the main farming period is over. You can still go through the intro tasks if you're a noob, but like, at some point, a lot of these things get nerfed. And I wonder if the attention stays there and if it's, becomes sticky enough at that point where people just genuinely want to be there and hang around and that kind of thing. Because I got to say, man, the momentum is fun right now where, I can hop into one of these places and be fairly confident that I'll bump into someone that I know. Bumped into Emotional, aka Fediverse. I assume Fediverse was Emotional. Just randomly, he was like murdering me in one of the games the other day, and run into Ballistic Banana periodically, and I popped into my own spot the other day, and Metageist was already there, like farming blooms or whatever, and it's cool, and I feel like that has very rarely ever happened anywhere where you can like hop into some of these spaces and be somewhat confident that if you stick around or look around long enough, you'll find a friend in there that is goofing around too, and I love that, man. That's what we've like been really missing in the Web3 metaverse space for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I sort of felt like you could hop in world and maybe bump into some folks was early CryptoVoxels when it was just
Yeah.
Origin City, and you could like walk around and you would see people because you're all on the same island together. And that disappeared, except for the whips, right? I mean, the whip was sort of just the opportunity to bump into other folks concurrently in world. But now with this, God, the incentives are super, like crypto incentives are no joke.
Yeah.
They're really powerful up front. Again, like you were talking about the bigger, longer term questions, like how, like what are the tokenomics of Island going to be eventually? Like how is that ecosystem going to be set up for like that long term crypto incentive? But goddamn, short term, it's perfect because with that client barrier and having to download that, everyone wins if they download it. Theoretically, they're setting themselves up to be eligible. The folks that are referring people in, there's that extra incentive for them. So it seems like everyone, it's set up so that you get over that initial bump, and hopefully they're able to kind of turbocharge it with the tokenomics, and more importantly than that, just like good solid gameplay on these islands and more solid builders coming in and building, which appears to be the case. So it's been a while since there's been a project like this that's just kind of like hit it and seems so promising right out the gate.
Well, I think they've done a good job in like tapping basically the whole market right now that like understands Web3 metaverse, right? Like the people you're seeing in there are like you're seeing the DCL people in there, you're seeing, you know, CryptoVoxels people in there, you're seeing HyperFi people in there. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in these communities, but you're seeing like the metaverse community come out and participate in this thing that's going on now, which I agree, man, is like super exciting. I have to think that there are a lot of other people paying attention to how this is working and what's going on now, right? And I wonder, like, do we end up in some sort of situation where, you know, someone goes over the top with like much looser tokenomics, cash grab, airdrop, and you know, this turns into one of these kind of hype cycles? Because this is what we were saying like a few weeks ago, right, man? Like the metaverse has never really like caught its hype cycle or caught its time, like, you know, in the spotlight, and we've still been underground for a really long time. But this is sort of like a glimpse into like, you know, what I think could possibly push our whole space into like a more mainstream spotlight when there are incentives to hop in, similar to the Web 2 style, you know, experiences. Like, you know, what's the one that I'm thinking of that's been around forever? Like Second Life has their whole like, you know, closed like in-house ecosystem, but it's sticky enough that it's still alive and people still keep coming back to it and everything. And I don't know, man. I hope this is sort of the tip of the iceberg for more experiments in this direction.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's just awesome to have something like this right now that we can kick the tires on. Super cool.
Plus, like, oh, dude, it's so nice, like, to have something like this served up for our what feels like is like largely our audience and like our crew. Like, you know what I mean? It's like when this thing came out and they're like, yeah, we're gonna have a token and you gotta like participate in world things and build and like blah 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 blah. It's like, oh shit, like this is like what we do, like served up on a silver platter for us. Like, you know, more of that, please. That, you know, stuff that I just remember DeFi summer, man, and I was like, you know, sort of trying to grok what I could about DeFi, and you know, at this point I know like a little bit more, but I'm like, you know, that was a hype cycle that was not for me at the time. Like DeFi was like interesting, but I didn't like have the knowledge base to like really dive deep and take advantage of like the stuff that was really ripe for the picking. But I'm like, shit, dude, I was made for this shit. And I think a lot of us were.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. 1,000%. Oh man, that's goddamn. The energy's real. Super stoked on that. And would love to hear like more thoughts and like how other people are using and finding Nifty Island too. So when we do the listening party here, actually I may jump in just to see if anyone listening there has been in Nifty Island to talk about this. So
yeah, you wonder you know, how this I imagine, well, I mean, you can look at some of the time people have like clocked into some of their islands. Actually, I think some of that captures other people's time in their islands too. But I'm like, dude, you look at these islands and like some of these builds have not taken an insignificant amount of time, much like we've seen in some of the other, metaverse platforms and everything. But those builds tend to go up like a little bit slower when there's not like an airdrop on the line and, sort of a call to action to, do the thing right this second. And you wonder how the payout, of this airdrop corresponds to the level of effort people have put into building and how much people actually care about that. I think everyone would love to get a fat bag from their effort put in, but if it doesn't end up being like that or ends up being like an insignificant amount of change or equivalency or whatever, does that leave a bad taste in people's mouth, or do they like what is being built enough to just sort of roll with it?
Yeah, I have a feeling folks would be more flexible, especially after like getting in and because the experience in world is so enjoyable, man. I feel like it's all set up for success there. Boom. But I mean, all this frenetic energy, this like amazing excitement. Tomorrow, I guess, for folks to stay centered and remain kind of like calm and in the moment, the WIP is going to be a nice little, I guess, counter to all that good stuff. Bay Backner is going to be bringing us into DCL for the wellness week that's going on over there, and there's literally going to be like metaverse meditation, and we're going to be like leaving affirmations places. It's going to be a fun show we have lined up in a very chill Zen way.
Dude, I love going the entire different direction. Honestly, it sounds great, especially like in the midst of this like crazy market chaos that show's been like talking about every week after the WIP and everything, and our WIPs have been like so bonkers lately too. It'll be kind of good to go the opposite direction and I don't know, sort of take a deep breath with some of the fam. And I'm such a huge Babe Backner fan, man. She's we were talking about this last week as well. She's just such a pro. And knowing that, we can sort of pass the mic to her and be like very confident that shit is going to be dope. And I know you and her were talking about, the run of show and everything for the WIP. And I'm excited, man. It's always like great to have her in the house. And like, the dichotomy of like us having, like sort of a therapeutic wellness week at the WIP, and then like a show coming on afterwards and yelling at all of us about the stuff that we should be paying attention to publicly is a great like juxtaposition. No, man, it's good. I feel like really Bay's been holding the torch for DCL. I think you might have been the one who actually sort of referenced that a little while ago. In terms of it's hard to see a lot of like what's going on over there, but when Bay comes knocking, man, she's going to serve up something really, really dope and shed a light on some stuff that was probably like off our radar or in our blind spots a little bit and everything. So I know Fractilians has been in the mix helping with this as well. So big shout out Bay and Fractilians.
Yeah, co-sign both of those amazing human beings. Can't say it enough. Yeah, so stoked for that. And dude, I'm ready to like fire up the Nifty Island client as soon as I have a couple free minutes and just jump back in again today. So like this conversation is like has me focused for my top line item today.
Dude, it's Fly Frogs have gotten a nice little burst of momentum from this whole thing as well, man. There's only so many avatar projects that are instantly compatible with Nifty Islands, and Fly Frogs had the fortune of being lumped into the WIP mix early on, and they made the Fly Frog avatar that I use very often, and so people have like a lot of options, but people like the frog, man. So it's cool. Now I pop in and I see like some frogs periodically, and people have been scooping up Fly Frogs and everything, and man, we have them on the WIP next week, I believe. And they've always been like big supporters of ours. And I've worked with them over the past couple of years and everything. So it's nice to see them get a little boost and some spotlight almost unexpectedly. This is sort of the the blessing of interoperability, right? Like these things were just sort of out there and able to be imported easily. And there just isn't a lot of stuff like that out there. And now they're getting a nice little bump for it. So shout out Fly Frogs and Molecule and Chupacabra, who I know have been holding the torch for them for a long time. And good to see them get a day in the spotlight.
Well, I mean, the WIP next week has to be in Nifty Island then. I mean, it's settled. I'm excited for that.
Oh, maybe, man. Yeah. Maybe
we gotta do that. Yeah, it's no brainer then. That's perfect. Oh, yeah. This turned into a Nifty Island show fest, but I think for the best possible reasons. And just to dispel any doubts, we're not being paid for this. Like, this is just like exciting shit, like we always do, kind of kicking the tires and reporting back to y'all. So,
dude, I feel like any of our like podcasts or whips that ever comes across like a shill fest, it's like very safe to say that we're not getting paid at all, and these are like genuinely things that we're like interested in and want to talk about because they are interesting to us. Otherwise, man, I wouldn't be able to hold my attention that long. So, no, I'm with it, man. Not that, but hey, if Nifty Island's listening and wants to pay us, we could talk.
Yeah. What up, Charles? Awesome, dude. Well, I'll let you get back to it, and shout out Fox Yoga and the listening party crew listening to this a little bit later.
Good shit. All right, man. See you at the WIP.
There you go.
Later.
Cool. Thanks for listening, y'all. Shout out Colin Wolf, Dragonate, Mom. See y'all later.